We moved into this building in approximately 1982. This used to be a telephone company, is my understanding. And I was told here recently by Don McAmin, who used to be the assistant chief here, that the city paid $1 for this building and took it over and made a police department out of it. And at that time, we had about half as many employees as we have right now. And they probably thought, they were moving from the old city hall, they probably thought they had all kinds of space. And it was meeting their needs at that time, but we've just outgrown it. And there's so many structural issues with this building that it would take a lot of money to make this building suitable for what we need to make it suitable for, to make it an effective and efficient police facility. And it's still going to be too small. We can't make this building any bigger. And that's the problem with spending a lot of money to try to rehab or remodel this facility, is we're still going to have a facility that is too small, and there's nothing we can do about that. Our force has doubled in size since we moved in. We had 31, 32 employees when we moved in here, I'm told, and we have 60 employees now. And when we did the building needs study and the space needs study here a couple years ago, we found out that we have about 25,000 usable square feet in this current facility. But just for the number of employees that we have now, we should have about 45 to 50,000. So our employee levels have doubled and space needs have doubled. There's a lot more technology in our business in the year 2015 than there was in 1982 as well. And our space here just limits us in what we can do with the technology that we need for our job, just with the crime processing stuff and the evidence management processes that we have to have in place. We just don't have the room or the efficiencies that we need here to have a modern police facility. We don't have enough space just for the police officers to do their daily tasks. We have a very small office work area where there's 2 computers that 5 or 6 police officers on each shift have to share to get the reports done. We have an office that's about the size of my office here, where we have 9 supervisors sharing that office and trying to get their work done. We just quite literally have people working on top of each other. There's no place for storage of files or equipment and things of that nature. A lot of our police officers keep their personal gear at home or in the trunks of their car because there's just no place to store it here. And when we have a big case going, we literally have people on top of each other because there's just no space. We've looked at a lot of different facilities throughout the Midwest, actually. Every time I have an opportunity, whether I'm on vacation somewhere or I go to a training or I go to a meeting somewhere, I take a look at the police facility. A lot of places across the Midwest and Iowa are building new police facilities because they're in the same position that we are, out of space. The buildings that they have are inefficient. They don't suit the needs of a modern police facility. One facility that was built recently in Iowa was at the city of Marion. And Marion's about the same size community as Marshalltown. The police department's almost identical in size. Communities are a little bit different. I understand that Marion's a suburb of a larger community. But they just built a modern police facility that is similar to what we're going to need here in Marshalltown at some point. And they just opened their building up early 2014 and spent around $12 million to get that done, is my understanding. We've studied the growth of our community over the last 20, 30 years. There hasn't been a lot of population growth in Marshalltown. And actually the police force for the last 20, 25 years has been about the same size. So we're not anticipating a significant growth in the number of police officers moving forward 25, 30 years. It'd be wonderful if our community would grow, and we all hope for that, and if that happens, that'll be a good problem to have. But when you look at our community historically, we think our police force 20 years from now is going to look pretty similar to what it looks like today. So what we're doing, because we're trying to be good stewards of tax dollars, is designing a building that meets the needs of today, because we think that that's going to meet our needs moving forward 20, 25 years. And we really think that this new police facility, if it's constructed, is really a 50-year building. Now, it will be designed to allow for some growth, some add-ons if we have to in the future, but we're not going to build a building that when we move into it's too big because we have more space than we need. We're trying to be efficient in how we're using tax dollars. They're not going to do a full-blown design of the building until the bond referendum passes because we're trying to save money again. Those are all things that we're going to have a lot of discussion about. We want community input on. There are going to be some public meetings in our very near future about this project, and you're going to see some preliminary designs of what the building might look like. Those are all discussions that we hope the community will get involved in, because certainly energy efficiency is important and something that I think we have to have serious conversations about. It's another reason why we need to get out of this building, because this building is not efficient at all. Our utility bills are outrageous. We can't keep it adequately controlled climate here. We just can't. It's either too hot or too cold throughout the year, and it's all because of the inefficiencies that we have in this current facility. This building is not a secure facility, and I think that the community expects a police facility will be a secure facility. And it's not a safe facility for our employees, quite frankly. We do not have the security features that we need to have for a modern police facility. The primary thing that I always talk to people about is if we arrest somebody, they expect that once we have them in custody in our building, they're not going to get away from us. I can't promise you that. I cannot guarantee that that won't happen, that they won't get away. We just don't have the security set up to be able to do that, and we're limited in the amount of space that we have here, and what we should have ideally is a sally port where a police car pulls in, and once they're inside, nobody's getting out. We don't have the space to add on a sally port here, and we don't have one here. So what we do is we walk them down 2 dark alleys to get the bad guy in the back door. And then there's not always a police officer in this building, so if I arrest somebody, I may be in this building by myself with that person. And if they overpower me, they're out the building. There's nothing that we can do to stop them from getting back out into the community. I think we've been lucky over the last several years that nothing bad has happened in that regard. People want us to keep a hold of these guys when we get them. You know, we do arrest some bad guys sometimes that people don't want in the community. I can't guarantee that they're not going to get away from us because we're limited in what we can do with security here. The other thing that I always talk to people about is privacy and confidentiality. When a citizen comes down here to make a report or to talk to a police officer, I think there's an expectation that they're going to be able to have a private and confidential conversation. I can't give you that right now. I don't have any truly private places to talk to you. Even in this office, these are paper-thin walls, the door is shut. People can hear us, not only in the next office, but out in the hallway. We can't have any private discussions. Why is that important? For example, pretend you have a loved one, a daughter, a spouse, somebody that you care about greatly, that's been sexually assaulted. And they have to come down and talk to a police officer whom they've never met before and discuss this very difficult, sensitive, maybe embarrassing, frightening event that's happened to them. They should be allowed a private, confidential location to have that conversation. I can't give that to you. And it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing. What happens if that rape victim is sitting in the interview room talking to the investigator and she hears the suspect walk down the hall? Do you think they're going to open up? No, they're not. They're going to shut down. And it limits our ability to effectively help that person and give them the services that they need. We need to fix that because crime victims deserve to have a safe, private location where they can come and talk about these issues so that we can provide them the services that they deserve and they expect, and that as taxpayers we're paying for. We have a lot of great police officers here that have a lot of great training that are doing great things. This building is one of the tools that they use every day to carry out their duties and provide police services. They're limited in the services that we can provide because this building limits them. We have police officers doing great things. We have police officers that could do extraordinary things if they had an appropriate and proper facility, a modern facility to work out of. When we interview suspects, the courts expect that we're going to audio and videotape those interviews. Again, we don't really have a private or confidential location to have those discussions, and we only have one room that we have the ability to video and audio record those conversations. It's not uncommon for us to have a major case going where we could have 4 or 5 suspects, or maybe we've got 2 or 3 cases going at the same time with multiple suspects, and we have one room to conduct these interviews. So what happens is I have police officers standing in the hallway twiddling their thumbs, waiting for their turn at the interview room because we can only do one at a time. That's not an efficient way for our police officers to work. And then the other thing that happens is the suspects, because we don't have any private places or locations where we can segregate people, so they sit in our front lobby. And so while one suspect is being interviewed in our interview room, the other 3 are sitting up front doing what? Getting their story straight, right? Talking to each other. Or we maybe have a murder suspect or a robbery suspect sitting in our front lobby while the rest of the community is coming in to conduct business. Okay? That's not a safe thing for our community to have to experience or go through. When we're investigating crimes, we can't automatically just arrest people. We have to build cases, and we have to have evidence to file those charges. Many times we can't get that evidence until we have an opportunity to talk to everybody involved. And the only place we have to sit suspects right now is in our front lobby, where the elderly person's also coming in to get a copy of a police report or asked to talk to an officer. That's not a safe way to conduct business. It's not a professional way to conduct business. Our police officers would like to do it a better way. This building limits them, and they don't have the ability to do the things that they need to do. Let's talk worst case scenario numbers for taxes, because when we did the needs study a couple years ago, at that time it was estimated that this project would cost $16.5 million. At that time, you got to remember that it's not just the police department that's being built, it's also the 911 center that will serve all of Marshall County. Okay, so of that $16.5 million, $2.5 million was estimated to be the 911 center. So if we build a project that's $16.5 million, here's what it does potentially to the tax rate based on the tax information that we have right now. If you have a property, we'll use round numbers, but say you have a property that's worth $100,000, okay? And it's a residential property. By today's tax rate, you're only paying taxes on about 57% of that $100,000, okay? So the rollback takes you down to $57,000. Now, if we have a $16.5 million project, we estimate right now, based on the best information that we have, that for that $16.5 million bond referendum, your taxes will go up $1.50 per $1,000 valuation. Okay? So if your $100,000 property is rolled back to $57,000, you take 57 times $1.50, and my limited cop math skills tell me that's about $83 a year that your taxes are going to go up. You divide that by 12, that's what, about $7 a month that your taxes will go up. We think that's the worst case scenario, because we think that our project's going to come in under $16.5 million, so that $1.50 is going to roll down. We don't have a firm number yet. We're going to have a firm number before we take this to a public vote, because when the public goes to vote, they need to know exactly what they're voting on and how much money we're going to spend. We hope to have that firm number in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The other questions that will have to be answered of what's going to happen with this building, and if it's demolition, how are we going to pay for that? Well, those demolition costs would become part of the project. So if we get the police building project down to, say, $13 million, okay, demo of this property is estimated to cost around $500,000, give or take. So now our $13 million project becomes $13.5 million project. And then if we decide that, yeah, we need to have indoor or enclosed parking for the police vehicles, that might add another $800,000 to $900,000 onto the project. So that's pushing that total project number up again. Right now, the best information that I have is our project is going to come in somewhere between $12 and $14 million, depending on what we want to do. We might decide to build a police department and leave this building standing and then try to rent it out, something of that nature, so we don't have the demolition costs. I think that this building has limited opportunities, though, for another tenant to take it over and make good use of it. In the history of our community, the history of this police department, we've never had a facility built specifically to be a police department. The police department's always been in the back of City Hall or in another building somewhere that they've taken over. And that worked probably for a long time. But in the year 2015, with the special needs that police facilities have and the technology needs that police facilities have, we really need to build a facility that's meant to be a police department. That's the only way we're going to be able to provide the effective and efficient services that people expect. We've had some conversations with architectural firms about rehabbing old buildings, and what we're told is that communities that try to rehab an old building and turn it into a police department end up spending as much or more money than what it would cost to build from scratch, and they still don't have the building that they need. It's very hard to move a police department into any other box building. You know, there's always lessons to be learned from any building project, and there's pros and cons to everything. And we've talked to communities that have funded it a certain way. We've talked to communities that are doing what we're doing and going the public vote route. We've talked to communities that didn't put in enclosed parking and wish they had, but there's expenses to that. I think it's good. There's lots of things that we can learn from those other communities, but we also have to remember that Marshalltown is not Marion, it's not Ankeny, it's not North Kansas City. It's unique, has unique needs, special needs for our community, and we have a different economy here, and we have to be reasonable in what we expect to spend on a new public safety building. But I think it's also important for us to plan for the future and to build a facility that our community can be proud of, and a facility that's going to serve our community for many, many years. I think we've been very fortunate to work with two architectural firms throughout the history of this project that specialize in public safety buildings. The firm that we hired to do the preliminary design here, Wilson Estes Police Architects out of Kansas City, this is all they do, is build police facilities. So they understand what it takes to build a modern facility and also build it economically. And we've been, I think, as a community, well served in hiring those specialized services to help us with this project moving forward. That's come up about public fundraising. We've tried to vet that a little bit with people in the community, and the feedback that we're receiving generally is that people understand that there's a need. Most people that I talk to believe it's a legitimate need. They're even willing for their taxes to go up a little bit, but they don't know that they want to spend or donate money or make a charitable contribution on top of paying additional taxes to a police facility. It's a little different project than what you might have for a school project or a library project. I think most people feel like while this is an important project, it's not something that they want to necessarily make a charitable contribution for. This is our administrative area, and this is where the public would sit when they're waiting to meet with the police chief. As you can see here, we have to run a space heater because we can't climate control this area, and my administrative assistant gets cold during the day. It's bitterly cold today, and we can't provide any of our staff with an efficient climate-controlled environment where they can work comfortably and safely. So sometimes we have to run space heaters, and in the summer it's fans. We can never find that middle ground with the temperature. Now, the problem with this space right here, where the public comes and where we have a civilian employee working, is it's just down the hall from where we process prisoners. And so as a business person is sitting here waiting to meet with the police chief, he might hear a person down the hall fighting with the police officer because, believe it or not, when we bring people here, sometimes they don't want to be here. Or they're under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and they're making a ruckus down the hall. It's not leaving a very good impression. And if that person were to overpower the police officer and get away from them, now they have access to the citizen that's sitting here. They have access to my civilian employees. There's not always other police officers in this building to help out when those things happen. So I think we've been fortunate not to have a bad incident occur involving a prisoner escaping our custody, but it's a disaster waiting to happen. This is the primary workspace for our patrol officers, and on any given shift we have 5 to 6 police officers working. This is where they do their paperwork. This is the only space that we have available to them, and it's closest to the processing area where we have prisoners. This is obviously not enough space, and there's no space at all for them to talk to a crime victim or a witness or even another police officer, have a confidential conversation about an investigation and things of that nature. So this is where we process prisoners, and you can see where we have the leaky roof, and that's been a non-stop problem for many, many years now, and every time they get one leak fixed, another one sprouts up. This is where we bring people after they've been arrested. It's not a secure area, and there is a gate here that could be easily pushed open, or they could climb over it even if they were athletic enough, I guess. But we don't have the ability that once you're in here to keep you in here. And if you're lucky enough to overpower a police officer, you're into the rest of the building where we have civilian staff, or you're right out the back door into the alley. This is our primary storage location. Now there's a neat story behind this, because it's obviously a jail cell, 2 jail cells back to back. We've never housed prisoners here. I think when they moved into this facility, there was some talk or speculation about maybe temporarily housing people. We've never done that, and we're not looking to build a jail facility or anything like that with the new project, but we will need to have a secure area where we can process prisoners, and a place to have people sit and wait if they're waiting to bond out, or they're waiting to take the drive out to the county jail. Okay, this is the basement of the police department. The 911 center's down the hall. We have a briefing room down the hall that I'll show you in a minute. But the floor, you can see that there's a lot of damage to the floor. That's from the constant water damage in this building and the flooding in this building. And the city has attempted to try to address some of the basement flooding issues with sump pumps and other repairs, but every time they make one repair, it seems like another issue comes up. We're just not able to keep this space dry anymore, and it's several times a year in the spring, summer, and fall that we have flooding in the basement. This walk-in closet of a space is our women's locker room, and we have roughly 20 female employees, and this is the only space that we have available to them to store equipment and uniforms and coats and things of that nature. This is the men's locker room, and it's a little bit bigger, and there's a few more lockers, but it's still a very cramped space, and you can see from all the equipment that's sitting out, there's not enough space for the officers to actually store their equipment. And as I stated earlier, a lot of them keep their equipment in the trunks of their cars, or they take it home with them because there's just not adequate space for storage. Some people want to know why do you need a locker room facility? Well, police officers frequently investigate accidents where they maybe get blood on them or other types of substances on them. They need a place to clean up. They need a place to store a clean uniform. We go into homes sometimes that are bug infested and just unpleasant to be in. They need to be able to come back and clean up so they're not dragging all of that stuff home with them. They also need to have a fresh uniform here in case something would happen at work and they've gotten blood on them or they've gotten something on them, so they can put a clean uniform back on and continue to do their job. Okay, you're on camera. This is the Marshall County E911 Center. This is one space that we do foresee some potential growth in the future. Right now, as you can see, we have enough space to have 4 people working if we needed to. We foresee a need in the future of having at least 6 because we think that there's going to be some consolidation of services at some point and our comm center will grow. These E911 operators have the toughest job in public safety, and they're getting ready to start 12-hour shifts, and they're stuck in this room for 12 hours. And you can see there's been some ceiling damage because we've had water leaks in here. They have difficulty with climate control in here as well. All of this equipment needs to be updated, and they're very limited in what they can do here. And in a modern 911 facility, they'd have many more options for how they position their equipment. We could have modern 911 furniture allows them to raise their desks or lower their desks. They're stuck in here. They're pretty much hostages for their entire shift in this facility. So they need to be able to have the ability to stand up if they want to and work, sit down if they want to. There's no restroom in here. There's no break facility in here. It's very difficult and challenging for these folks to perform their tasks efficiently and effectively. They're doing a great job. We have great people. This building limits our ability to do extraordinary things because we've maxed out what we can do with this facility at this point. This is our daily briefing room, and we use it for some small trainings. This used to be the county's emergency operations center. The county emergency manager moved her operations out to the sheriff's office because she got tired of being flooded out every year. And it wasn't just rain flooding, it was sewage backups. So we moved into this space, and when it's dry we use it, and when it's not dry we go upstairs. This front half of our basement is completely unused because of flooding. This is the area that's affected 100% of the time, every time we have a flood. Our emergency manager used to work in this office here. She moved out because of the flooding. And there's no point in us trying to make this a usable space because guaranteed it's going to flood 3 or 4 times a year. As we're walking through, you can see all the water damage from the constant flooding, and up front here it gets significantly worse. They actually installed some sump pumps in the corners of the front of this building. Hasn't really helped with the problem. This is our records unit, and as you can see the walls keep narrowing in because we have to keep adding on files for all the paper files that we do have to keep. We'd like to move towards a paperless world, but in the work that we do there's always going to be paper that we have to keep, and this is really the only space that we have to store those records, and we're quickly running out of space. Now they'll take some of the old records upstairs and we'll store them in an area that's not climate controlled and the roof leaks. It's not a great area to store paper records. So we're doing the best that we can, but we're running out of space. 3 people share this workspace. This is the one and only interview room that we have. And we are being recorded as we walk in the door here. The system automatically turns on. This is the only spot that we have to bring victims, witnesses, or suspects. It's not a private location. It's really not even a secure location if we have a suspect in here and we're trying to keep him under secure control. You can see we have a door here that we put paper up over the glass. That doesn't give you much of a sense of privacy. And if this door was shut and there's people walking up and down the hall, you can hear them out in the hall. So what's that tell you? As a crime victim or witness, they can hear you. Okay? Or you're a domestic violence victim or a sexual assault victim. You're in here talking, you can hear the suspect walk down the hall. That's probably not a good environment for that person to feel comfortable in opening up about what happened to them. Again, it's not a secure environment at all. And a police department our size, with the amount of work that we have, we should have 3 or 4 of these rooms that are audio-video recorded so we can do multiple interviews at the same time and efficiently and effectively do our work. These are all shared work areas for people with different specialized assignments. Our volunteers work out of this office. We just have people stacked on top of people. Our accident investigators and our field training officers share this workspace. So there's 6 or 7 people that try to store files and share this workspace back here. This is our watch commander's office. This used to be, originally was where the 911 center was many, many years ago. And then we used this as a briefing room. When I first took the job, this was our briefing room. And so we would have, at the beginning of a shift, 8 or 9 people in this room talking about what just happened on the previous shift and what the assignments are for the oncoming shift. When we moved the briefing room downstairs, we turned this into the watch commander's office because there's 9 people that share this space. They used to have an office that's probably not even half this size for 9 people. So we were able to give them a little more space. But again, it's not a confidential location. And if a supervisor has to talk to an employee about an employment issue, this is where they generally have those conversations, but it's really not a confidential or private place where they can have those discussions. This is our detective area. So we have 2 detectives share this small office. My crime scene technician has a private office because she has to keep some confidential property in there. This little cubicle type space is where our domestic violence investigator works. So again, we're talking to victims of violent crimes that are very difficult to talk about, and she doesn't even have a private office to be able to have those conversations. This area of the building, front half of our second floor, is unused space. You can feel that it's very cold in here. It's not a climate controlled area. And the reason it's unused space is we've identified structural issues that make it impossible at this point to put people up here and have this be a load-bearing space. So we store some equipment, some paperwork, documents. It's kind of become a junk room for the department. We're a facility or an organization that needs more space. We have some space on the second floor. We have some space in the basement. We can't use it because of structural issues and flooding and things of that nature. Roof leaks on the entire second floor. On the other side of this wall back here is our property and evidence room. And that's access controlled, so I can't take you back there today, but we're storing evidence in a area that is not climate controlled and in an area where the roof leaks. This facility is a tool for our staff to do their work, and we have staff doing great things who could be doing extraordinary things if they had an appropriate facility to work out of. This is the employee entrance, and this is where we also bring prisoners, so I'll show you this real quick. Just a normal door, so again, somebody gets out of our custody. Out the door, into the community. Okay? So we have a murder suspect we just arrested. He overpowered the 2 police officers that were watching him. He's back into the community. Okay? And this is where we bring people, and there's obviously no parking here. So police officers have to walk prisoners who are many times uncooperative, maybe under the influence, maybe fighting with the police officers down this alley that could be ice covered in the winter or wet in the spring and summer because of a rainstorm. And I want to show you here where they walk them from. It's not just a short walk. They also have to navigate this alley. And you see where that dumpster is. On the other side of that dumpster, there's a place for police cars to park. So they park there and fight a uncooperative prisoner down 2 alleys to get in our back door. This is a dark alley at night. We're a 24/7 operation. I have civilian employees in and out of the building 24/7, female employees in and out of the building 24/7. If you were mad at the police and you wanted to get your revenge, you're going to figure out that this is the door that we use. You can sit back here and harm or hurt anybody going in and out of this building, and you don't know if they're a civilian or a police officer. Okay, it's not a safe location for my staff to come and go from. We don't have any parking for our staff that's anywhere close to our building, so they have to park a block and a half away many times. And again, it's just not a really secure location. Now, if your buddy got arrested, you know that we're going to bring him here and we're going to bring him out here. Okay, we should not be transporting prisoners in and out of the building from an outdoor environment to the indoor environment. We should be pulling into a sally port, which is a secure location. And once they're in our building, they're in our building, they're not going to get out. We just have a normal door that somebody just hits a panic bar and they're out the door. Our department staff does have a workout area. This equipment was all purchased with private funds. The Fraternal Order of Police does a lot of fundraising. They've written some grants, things of that nature. We've not used tax dollars to buy this equipment. I think it's important for police staff to have an area where they can maintain a level of fitness. Police work is very difficult work, challenging work, and our staff does a good job of making use of this room. And hopefully we'll have a space like this in the new facility. This is our front lobby. This is where the public comes. This is also where suspects will sit and wait while they're waiting to talk to a detective or go back to an interview room. It's not uncommon for this room to be full. It's not uncommon for people not to be able to find parking in the front here. It looks like a semi-secure area. This is just normal glass. It's not a secure area. Generally, we have civilian employees working on the other side of the counter. There's not police officers in the building 24/7. It's not uncommon for people to come here angry. It's not uncommon for somewhere in the United States, you see all the time when people coming into police facilities with weapons because they're upset. Our civilian employees aren't protected from that because this is just normal drywall, again, normal glass. And there's just not enough space in here. And people come down for help, and we don't have a restroom facility for them while they're waiting. It's very crowded in here most of the time. We have Highway 30 running on the south side of our town. You have a bad motor vehicle crash, families come down here to wait. They're from out of town, wait for somebody to come get them. This is the only spot we have to have them sit. We can do a better job than that. And you can feel in here today it's a little cold. It's hard to climate control this area as well. I've had people tell me that they've come down to the police department looking for help, and they've decided not to come in because when they open up the door they see it's jam-packed in here, and some of the people in here are scary. They don't want to come in. So they need help from the police department. They decide it's more important for them to leave because they don't want to sit in this crowded area. And it's not a safe area. What if a domestic violence victim runs to the police department to get help or to get away from somebody? She comes into this facility. At night, there's nobody here on the other side of the counter that can help. She doesn't have a secure place where she can shut herself in so whoever might be chasing after her can't get to her. A modern facility has what they refer to as a safe room, where they can come in and shut a door behind them. The only person that can get back in there is a police officer. And there's a phone similar to this where they can pick up and call the comm center and get the help that they need. There's lots of things that we can do better operationally, and it has nothing to do with the staff here. It has everything to do with this facility. This facility limits us in our abilities to provide professional 21st century police services. Right now, the city's target date for a bond referendum is May 5th. That could change, but that's the target date. And so if this project continues forward, if the City Council decides to take this to a bond referendum election, that election will be held on May 5th. And it requires 60% of the public to vote yes to pass the bond referendum. It's not a simple majority. You have to have that 60%. So we want the public to have as much information as they can so they can make a good decision one way or the other at the ballot box. You know, I'm not here to tell you yes or no or advocate for the project. I'm just trying to give you information so that you can make the best decision possible. If you want to do a tour of the facility, please call me. We're happy to schedule those tours for individuals, small groups, large groups. It's up to you. I think it's important that before you make a decision on May 5th about what to do with the future needs of the police department, that you see the facility for yourself and see the limitations that do exist here. And if anybody has any questions or concerns, please give me a call. I'm happy to address those at any time.